American people would still not be in that option, number one.
Joe, you agreed with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto, we call it, and that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying
I'm not going to listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days early. You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to do is
Super Tuesday. You got very lucky.
Here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just want to make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
Mr. President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You pick the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto. Number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
Absolutely agreed
folks, do you have any idea what this clown's doing?
They call it
Mr.
Do you
Mr.
have any
President.
do?
socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well,
President.
I tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care. Because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they have from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them better health care at a much lower price, because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an
It's not
extent.
good for him to do this, by the way. I think Trump
Obamacare,
should
as
let
you
him
might
finish.
know, but probably
100%.
don't.
Gentlemen, you
Obamacare
realize
is no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president. Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well. And I just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive. Premiums are too high, and it doesn't work. So we do want to get rid of it. Chris, we want to get rid of it.
I understand it, sir, but I have to give you roughly equal time. Please
This is a complete
let
shit
the
show.
Vice President talk.
This is just a
He
shit
has
show.
no plan for health care.
And this is why I'm bourbon.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders.
Are people hearing our comments?
Yes,
at this point they are. Everybody was wondering where you were at, but you're back.
Promising a health care plan
Guys,
since he
Adam is
got
back.
elected.
He's good.
He has none. Like
You don't
almost
seem like you're mic'd
everything
up,
else
though.
he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote.
This is good that he's doing
You're
this.
in voting now.
This is very good that
and
he's doing
let
this.
your
Looking at the
senators
camera,
know how
everybody's
strongly
watching.
you feel. Vote now.
You're gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure
This is
you,
what
in
Romney
fact,
didn't know how to
let
do it.
people
Obama
know
knew how to do it.
you're
Obama told him
senators.
to do this.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why would you
because
answer that?
because the
camera.
question
But a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question.
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on
so
your list?
right.
Get down in the mud with them.
Pack the court.
We have,
I'm not going to give a list.
we have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second
Is that
segment.
good look for him or no?
Hell yeah, it's a good look.
But that's his only defense. Hey, shut up.
people
You're a liar.
understand.
No one
Listen,
believes you.
It's a debate.
47 years you've
The
done
people get
nothing.
a 2
All right.
minutes to talk. The other
The
person gets 2
second
minutes to talk.
subject.
If you're talking and some guy
COVID-19
interrupts you
is an awfully
constantly,
serious subject, so-
constantly,
let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be
we got COVID over here. What is going on?
before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far, and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead.
That's good. I like
You
that.
said over 7 million
good
infected in the
ad-lib.
United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths.
We know the stats. Move on.
40,000 people a day.
You gotta hear the
are
stats.
contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, "It is what it is."
Okay.
Well, it is what it is because you
Well
are who
played.
you are. That's why it is.
Because
President
you are who
has
you
That's a
are.
zinger.
Plan.
It is
He
what it is
hasn't
because
laid
you are
out
who you
any-
are.
That's very
That's
He knew
the stuff
all
that's
the way
being.
back in February how serious this crisis was.
We
He
might hear
knew
that
it
again.
was a deadly disease. What
You
did he
are
do?
who you are.
He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent
Just
with
be
us.
patient,
That is
Trump.
What
true.
did he do then? He then
You're gonna
did
be able to
nothing.
respond.
He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March
minutes.
exactly
So
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
Ooh,
So,
even threw a
if we
golf
would have
zinger his
listened to
way.
you-
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed
agree
it,
with
and
Trump
you
on
said
that.
he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I
unrelated
should have
to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No, just
Wait a
sir,
minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job.
By the way, he
Most
did that
of them
last
said
time with
that.
Paul Ryan.
In
It
fact,
didn't work for
people
him. I
that
don't know if you
would
remember
not
that.
be necessarily
He
on
was
my
laughing and
side
mocking
said
Paul
that.
Ryan.
President Trump
He has
did
a
a
tendency of
phenomenal
doing that.
job.
Cuomo
We
did
did.
say that,
We
didn't
got the
he?
gowns.
At
We
one
got the masks.
You mean
We
Fauci
made
or
the
Cuomo?
ventilators.
Well, he
You
was
wouldn't have
talking
made
about
the
the vaccine.
ventilators.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get
Weeks
sick.
away from a
Far fewer
vaccine.
people
We'll
are
see about
dying.
that.
We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press, they give me bad press, because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did.
AKA, I
you
do
don't have
care.
it in your blood. You could have never done that
That's a
job.
measured response.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't
done.
do very well in swine flu.
haven't done crap for
H1N1,
50
you were a
years.
disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There
point.
was
no-
It's a
Okay,
horrible
so you
thing
made
for
a
Trump to
point,
bring
but an
up.
answer.
And there was no
He's
one-
comparing the
there's
swine
no-
flu
we
to
didn't shut
COVID?
down the economy.
But that was good for
This
Biden.
is his economy he's shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an
doing
empty
good.
chair at
So
the kitchen
obvious.
table because someone died of COVID.
Boom.
How many of you were in a situation where you lost
He's
your
doing good right
mom or
here.
dad and you couldn't even speak to the
I give
head
him props.
nurse
This
over
is
the
what
phone
Trump can't
so you
do.
could,
Take
in
him off
fact,
his
say
game.
Empathize with
How
the
many
average
Now that's a
person.
speech. That's not empathy.
And,
You would have been
and by the way,
enslaved.
your own
You were
his
once
You don't
own
think-
his own CDC
That is what Trump
director
can't
says
do.
we
What
could
Biden's
lose as
doing
many
right
as
now.
another
Biden does have a much more
200,000 people
empathetic
between
delivery.
now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we
Jessica,
can save half those numbers. Just a
Irene
mask.
said both
and by the
sound
way,
like
in
desperate
terms
kids
of
arguing.
the whole notion
So
of a
far, it's not
vaccine,
good for both of them, by
we're
the
for
way,
a
just so you know
vaccine,
that.
but I don't trust him at all. Nor
I agree
do
with
you. I
Jessica.
know you don't.
Shout out to
What we
Jessica.
trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the
penalized
future
when
first,
you
President
interrupt the other
Trump,
person.
you have repeatedly
Time, take it away.
either contradicted
Yeah.
or been at odds
like
with
a
some of
below
your
the belt
government's
hit. You
own
get a
top
penalty. You
scientists.
get
The
a
week
point.
before
You know about
last,
that, Rappatorni.
the
You
head
know
that.
of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about
after
when it's
that.
generally available. not when
Well,
it
we're
will
going to
be.
deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This is
delivering
the same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was said
man.
sarcastically.
That was
you
him.
know that.
I
That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next
think
year to
Biden's
get
doing
it
better
out.
than I thought.
If we
I
get
agree.
the vaccine. And pray God we will.
That's what I said,
Pray
gentlemen.
God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have the vaccine soon.
I want to
He's
pick up on this
hanging with
next
Trump.
one, though. You say the public
lightly. That's why
Is
can
he not
trust the
hanging with Trump?
scientists, but they can't trust President
Well,
Trump.
he's
In
sticking
fact,
to
you
his
said that
history.
again tonight. Your
Historically,
running mate, Senator
the
Harris,
existing
goes
president
further,
always comes
saying
out
the
weaker in
public
the
health
first debate,
experts,
just like
quote,
Obama came out
will be
weaker with
muzzled,
Romney. It's
will be
always like that because they
suppressed.
underestimate
Given the
the
fact
Obama
that
came out
polls
weaker
already
with
show
Romney in the second
that
debate.
people are concerned
First
about the
debate he did
vaccine
okay.
and are
He did
reluctant
okay.
to
Second
take
debate,
it.
Romney
He didn't
kicked
crush
his
it.
Are
ass.
He
you
didn't
and
crush
your
it,
running
though.
mate,
He
Senator
didn't crush
Harris,
it, though.
contributing to that fear?
Obama
No
came out
more than the
okay in
question
the
you
first
just
But
asked.
Biden's holding his
You
own, yes
pointed
or no?
out. He
He's
puts
doing
pressure.
much better than I thought he was
disagrees
going
with
to.
Boom, that's
his
all I'm
own
saying.
scientist.
But you're saying
Everybody
you
show
didn't
up.
Senator
Next thing
Harris
you know,
is saying
he's
you can't trust the
potentially
science.
winning the
No,
debate.
you can't trust
No,
the
but
science.
the reason why I think he's
she
doing
didn't say
better-
that. You can't
She,
trust
she
the
not
said
playing
the public
Trump's
health
card.
experts,
He's
quote, will
sticking
be
to his card.
muzzled,
Yeah,
will
he
be
Yeah,
was
suppressed.
coached
Well,
well and he's staying with the
That's what he's
script.
going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and
scientists that are in
and
charge.
By the way,
they will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's
his
telling
thing, man.
you
He's turning
in light of all the
working.
lies
He said we
he's
cannot
told
hear the
you
debate.
about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
That's fear
Did
mongering.
you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me the
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done
Let's
nothing.
have this debate.
And if you would have had, let me just tell you
This is
something.
a
Joe.
6-year-old.
If you would have had
We have our president,
charge
baby, and
of
chief.
what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
and
we're
it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to Nancy Pelosi. And Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the Senate, and he sits in his
that was
golf
not a
course.
good look.
Well, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact that
He wants to shut
this
down
is your
this
guy.
country. And I want to
President,
keep it
baby, and
open.
chief.
And we
You
did a
get-
great
he
thing
gets
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November
I want to
3rd.
move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to another
I
subject.
gotta
But
respond.
those states are not doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
gotta
now.
respond to that.
Wants
President
to shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks are
efficacy
okay.
of
You have
masks?
to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The
But
Congress.
I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now,
good.
if
was
everybody wore
quick.
masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said
no,
the opposite.
no serious person said the opposite.
They've
No
also said, well, look
serious.
all right, I
at
wanna
Dr.
ask you-
Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we
opposite.
got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with.
What's true? Nobody shows up to his rally.
In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not?
Put
You
the
go
mouse
first, sir.
away, buddy.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
and
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference according to
Maintain
the
that.
experts.
No, but
and we
in
do
this
them outside.
specific
We have
area.
tremendous crowds, as you see.
that.
I
No,
mean, every
he's talking
and
about
literally on
what you
24
do
hours
in your
notice.
events.
And Joe
That's
does the
the
circles
specific
and has
topic he's
3
talking
people
about.
someplace.
Okay.
By the way,
I
did you
knew
see
the
this?
risk.
Did you see
That's
the-
it.
one of the
We can't
last
meet the risk. We have
rallies he
choices
had?
as people.
And a reporter came up
We
to
have
him, asked him a
choices.
question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative effect.
No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown. In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week, you saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance, they can wash their hands, they can wear masks, they can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis
You're a millionaire.
have done very well.
9 million.
Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal and only focus on the market. But you folks at home,
Here we go. Just turn
you
to the
folks
camera
living
when
in
we get
Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no. Sir, it's just
the wrong statement.
Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines. Those people who have been saving our lives. Those people who went out there dying. People who have been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety.
Schools. Why are schools open?
Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely.
Free.
You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6
Trump
is
is
now
going crazy
gone.
right now. He's like-
He ought to get on the
he's
job
7
and
seconds
take
away.
care of the needs of the American
Can't hold
people so we
himself.
can open safely.
All right, your time is up, sir. We are going to get to.
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York, it's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town, and I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
Okay. People
want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was
Yeah, take
me,
the credit
and
for that.
I'm very happy to do it.
Okay.
And the people of Ohio are very proud of me, and you know
We're going
how
to
I
get
found
back,
out?
Ohio.
It took
gentlemen,
us
we're going to
30
get
years.
to your
Strategic.
economic plans going
Pennsylvania,
forward in a
Michigan.
moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750
go.
a year in federal income
He's gotta be
tax
ready for this, though.
each of
He's
those
got to,
years.
sure.
I know that you pay a lot of
stay-
other
Hold on,
taxes, but
let's
I'm
not
asking you
forget
the
that he hasn't
specific
accepted
question.
a
Is
dime
it
of the
true that you paid
presidential salary?
$750
So we didn't
in
mention that
federal
before.
The report
income
from the New York
taxes
Times is true.
each
So
of
let's
those
hope
2
he stays
years?
I
on point
paid
here.
millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million one year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
one year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it.
Right.
You know, if you want to do,
5 years
go
later,
to the
we're
Board of
looking at
Elections.
being honest.
It's a
Anybody believe that?
118-page or so
Anybody
report
believe that?
says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and we have a very I built
Sir,
a great
I'm asking you a
company.
specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you-
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand
return.
all of that.
But
I'm
let me-
no, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it.
I-
And you'll get to see
When?
it. But let me just
Inshallah?
tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation
He's right about that.
Yep.
and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a
Okay.
massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired
no.
right after that happened. But
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax
Oh,
cuts.
so you're going to raise taxes?
And make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
So why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you
Why
weren't
didn't
president.
you do it over
Because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years? No,
screwing
no,
things
no.
up.
You were a senator, and
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more
It's a low blow.
in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years,
Call
Joe.
both
We've
sides.
done
I
things
will
that you
agree.
never
I'll
even
agree with
thought
you.
about, including fixing
I'll
the
agree with
broken
you on that.
military that you gave me,
call both
including
sides.
taking care
We're
of your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected
ma'am.
president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what
need
has
that
the
BetDavid
analysis
plan.
done by
Can you
Wall
imagine
Street
that?
firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes,
My
not
IQ
spending.
went down 20
Well,
points.
by the way, I'm
That
going to
doesn't make any
eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. Because you, in fact, passed that.
See if you can go 12.
That was your tax proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed.
The economy is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. Right. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look, we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't booming.
He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest
Shit.
recovery since
Wait. Is it fair to say he blew it when fact there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse me, Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would take a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of
not
my
agree
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having that.
And they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with Mexico.
China ate your lunch, down
All right,
18%. China ate your lunch, Joe. And no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also, while we're at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
You've asked your questions and an answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really? He didn't get $3.5 million?
Mr. President,
totally,
Mr. President, please.
Totally discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
well, wait, he didn't get $3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
he got $3.5 million.
It is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr. President, it's an open discussion, please.
It's a fact.
Well, you have raised an issue. Let the Vice President answer.
Discredited.
Did Burisma pay him $183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr. President,
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
Mr. President, let him answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been thoroughly discredited.
By who? The media?
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our allies, by the World Bank, by by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even the
President,
people who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me ask you this, Joe.
No, go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to you.
This is Chris
Yeah, $3.5
Wallace.
million
No joke.
He testified
You
under
can
oath in his
control this
administration,
debate.
said,
He needs to
I did
stop.
my job and I did it very
Stop.
well. I
Tell
did it
him.
honorably.
Yeah, he's lost control of the
Well,
debate.
the list of the people who testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure,
I'm telling
you've
you,
already
he's
fired
lost
most
control
of
of
them
the debate.
because they did a good job.
Some people don't
Well,
do a good
here's
job.
the,
You
Go ahead. You
Here's the
wait
deal.
a minute. You get the final word, Mr.
well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown.
He's
Excuse me.
lost
This
control.
Let me just say, Joe.
No.
Too nice.
I'm
Joe
Mr.
Rogan
President.
should
I'm
have
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply
Why did he
not true.
deserve $3.5 million from
It did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already...
family,
No, let him go.
my family
already
lost
wrote.
a fortune by
Go ahead.
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's such a...
they're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great...
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune.
about
President.
my
Coming and
family or
helping
his
us
family.
with
It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect $3.5
people.
million
He
dollars.
doesn't. That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the end of the
Shouldn't
segment.
take the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
Joe
President,
Rogan would have put up with
no.
this
Can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
He
I-
stood up.
No,
He stood up.
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion if you
That
want rid of
is
it.
You know what? You're
absolutely not
Stop.
true.
You're doing it.
You're going to
Not
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen.
Is-
I hate to raise
He's
my voice, but
on
it seems
tape.
to be. Why shouldn't I be different than the two of you? So here's the
Got a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead.
Good.
But
You
I
took
think
control.
that the country would be
Good.
better served
Oh
if
my
we
gosh.
allowed both people to speak with fewer
There you go.
interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Honestly, the viewers
him
wanted
too.
you to take control.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Oh, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than sir, less than
God.
less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
This question?
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever
Finish
said
the
anything
statement.
like that.
Finish
It
this.
is who's
Now,
2
second,
minutes, sir.
second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus.
That's a bad thing to say. You just
and
gave
if
him
he
an
doesn't
opening.
do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed.
That's a terrible
1 in
strategy.
500
Watch what's about to
African
happen.
Americans.
Yep.
This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been
look a little
disastrous
calmer?
for the African American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994.
Yes.
Where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left, and they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right.
Let's see what he says.
I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples, and when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right,
what is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place?
That is not peaceful protest.
President Trump, I'm not asking.
But you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else.
Radical,
and he would know.
What is radical about racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas, and frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen.
That's right.
We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about this than he does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them.
But we don't need the government to do that for us.
It's important that people know. They don't want to.
Who's gonna do it?
Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings.
People can do that in and of
but
themselves.
It makes a big difference.
Like, we don't need the
it makes
government
a
to
gigantic
tell us
difference in the way a
if we're
child is
insensitive or
able to
not.
grow up and have a
We need
sense
to talk
of
amongst each other
self-esteem.
about that.
It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but
Lord.
the reason is that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these cities don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you
crime.
in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow it.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go
yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You asked a
Everybody's in
question,
favor
let him
of
finish.
Law and order.
loses
Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more
he
in
had,
ours.
All right, we're down.
is president of
Mr.
the
President, you're going
United States
to.
of America.
Mr. President,
every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And
we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble with Democratic-run cities.
That's exactly my question.
Democratic.
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200% crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country, and they ran it the way he would want to run it, our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've never seen.
He wouldn't know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
Go ahead, wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. Yeah. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police offices. As a matter of fact, local police, The only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement
that's not
support.
true.
Almost
that's
nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you.
Seriously, better say something.
Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
Think
all right.
This is not
Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported
gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the
There
moderator's
aren't. I don't
role,
think there are any.
and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is, as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it.
But you've never called for the people, the leader. Excuse me, sir. You have never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if you just stay out of the way.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of a young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3 days,
President Trump
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals. They took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the here's the point. The point is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up.
It's hilarious.
He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly, and every single solitary
Okay,
moment.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized.
You have to answer his
Cavaliers.
You have repeatedly. You've been talking about
made a statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it. I would love to end it.
If you want to switch seats. We can do that, but
I'm sending the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha, and as we've seen in Portland?
There's different definitions for militia groups. You have to identify what militia group you're talking about.
Almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Yeah.
With birds?
You want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to condemn?
supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
That's bullshit.
That's what his
an idea.
FBI.
That's the biggest horseshit thing you said tonight.
Director said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
Bat is over the head. That's not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no idea.
Antifa is a dangerous,
all right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump and Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. He was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you some people say maybe the most important.
I don't think there's a 90%
by the end of the first
approval rating
term,
at the
I'll have
VA.
approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president.
Point.
But I
Great
want to
point.
thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term.
I'm sorry.
300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump?
this
You have 2
president-
minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided,
That's a zinger.
more violent.
That's
When
what you
I
call a
was
zinger.
vice president,
Practiced it.
Yeah.
we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused a recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses
would
to even
bury
say
you.
You know
about
Trump's gonna say
the
something.
bounty
He
on the
cannot
heads of
help
American
himself.
soldiers.
Putin would
$3
bury you.
million
That's
one.
right.
Boom.
And by the way,
Mr.
my
President,
son.
wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
no,
He's
I'm
a
not
person
asking.
that's
That was a
not yelling.
rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor.
You interrupt, the other person
Billionaires
should
have
get
gotten
more
much
time.
Took him an
Take your
hour
time.
and
Wealthy?
15
I'm good with that.
minutes.
By a tune
that
of over
zinger?
$300 to
For a
$400
while,
billion
it's too
dollars
shy.
more.
Man, listen,
just
say
since COVID,
something.
you in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States.
Somebody wrote this
it's
script?
on his watch.
And this is actually
with
the
regard
script.
to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers.
No way
my
Trump
son
cannot say something.
was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the
Getting
Bronze
emotional?
Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're
I
talking
don't know.
about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you
Hunter
know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
For
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
my
made up
son,
a
not good
fortune.
for
my
Biden.
son,
And he didn't have a job.
my son, like a lot of people,
Big time.
like a lot of
Twice.
people
No
you know
one
at
knows
home,
twice.
had a
Right.
drug problem.
Biden's
Why don't you
son
talk about
failed
the
a
son
drug
stealing
test.
the other
Yes,
brother,
he
older
did.
brother's wife?
He's worked on
How
it,
about that one?
and I'm
That
proud
was
of
a
him.
huge
But why was
Proud
he
of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right.
dollars?
He wasn't given
All right.
tens of millions
He was
of
given
dollars. That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's
dollars.
totally
President Trump,
discredited.
you've already been through.
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a
know,
So
judgment
right
call
here,
here.
maybe
$3.5
personnel
million
were
from
discharged
the
from the
mayor of
military because of
Moscow.
failed
Let's talk
drug
about
tests
ethics.
don't receive
Gentlemen,
honorable
report is
discharges.
totally
Why did he
was
credit it?
dishonorably
Mitt
discharged.
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth
not gonna look
taxpayers'
good for
money.
Biden
That report
tomorrow.
was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. Forest fires in the West are raging now.
I've got a whole bunch of compared information on
They
that.
have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change?
This is the biggest issue
and
for Gen
what
Z.
will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up
USA
with
Today.
trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know,
Russell
we're
Adams
planting a
says
billion
his
trees,
discharge
the
was not
billion tree
dishonorable.
project,
It's almost
and it's
impossible
very
to
exciting.
make
believe
a dishonorable
that
discharge. That is
human
completely untrue.
Pollution, gas,
I was in the
greenhouse
military.
gas
Plenty of
emissions
people got
contributes to
dishonorable
the
That's what I'm
global
saying,
warming
like-
of
I
the
think a
planet.
lot of things do, but I
That's
think to
not
an
a
extent,
fact.
yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management,
And
you
controlled
wouldn't
burns.
be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point,
Boy,
you can't every year have
You-Haul Employee of the
hundreds of
Year.
thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
But
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really,
Because you
because
turn
what's
back
happening
anything
is the
Obama
car
did,
is
even
much
if
less
it was
expensive
helpful.
and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No, but you
ignored
would take
your
a lot of cars
rollback.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And,
Conrad Jones
and I'm
said
okay with
Wallace is
electric
debating
cars
for
too. I
Biden.
think I'm all
He's
for
got a
electric
point.
cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars.
The
But what
debate
they've
now is
done in
Wallace against
California
Trump.
is just
All right.
crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil.
Gosh,
nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. We're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles, making sure we can do that with 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that in fact is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they in fact are weatherized in a way that in fact they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands of jobs. We can get
He is a president. He's got 4 years
energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating jobs, creating millions of good-paying jobs.
I'm telling you,
not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green.
Close your eyes and just listen to his voice.
I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out, look what's happening.
Telling you,
the only energy that he's had was when he was defending his kid.
Look at him. Trump is like lit up. He's going to go to 2 o'clock in the morning tweeting tonight.
The rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down.
Oh my gosh.
More carbon is absorbed in
I don't know if we're doing the second part of the debate. If there's a second and third like this, I can't sit through this.
Instead of doing something about that,
read a book
I would be
right now.
gathering up and
Bored out of
making
my
sure we had
mind with this guy.
the countries of the world coming up with
no
$20 billion.
passion.
Say,
No
here's
passion.
$20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line.
We need to hook him up to like a flux capacitor
He
or
still,
something.
for example, make sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane.
This is the longest Trump's been quiet. 3 minutes.
This is a guy who says that
I
you don't have
was
to have
wrong.
mileage standards for automobiles that exist
I
now.
said it first,
This is
true.
a guy who says that.
Not true.
Well, the fact that it's all true. And here's
He's
the deal.
talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings and rebuild the building. It's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out, where 2-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows. That's not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion. That's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're going
not the case.
All right, let me because I actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying jobs.
Let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know. Thousands of jobs. The fact is, it's going to have millions of good
You have to change
jobs,
it real quickly.
And these tax incentives
create
for people,
hundreds of
people to
jobs.
weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's what he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
$20 billion.
my plan.
That's
the Green New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
not my plan.
You want to rebuild every
If he knew
you have to-
anything
wait, no,
about,
no, wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen,
anything
He made a
about,
statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
He
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He did
He
say
said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards.
not
He
sir.
said
Get that
it.
video
I
ready.
would
He called
never
them
say
stupid
that.
bastards.
Stop.
Play it.
Go ahead, Mr.
You're on
Vice
tape.
Get that
President.
video ready for afterwards when we're done.
his final
Just say
question.
Biden
Final
on YouTube.
question
Biden,
is, I can't
stupid
remember which of all
bastards.
his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the
Wow.
economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your
the
environmental
Green New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New Deal.
you don't? Oh, well, that's a
You
big
let-
statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just lost the radical left.
I
AOC
support
and Sanders
the
is right.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election, and what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election.
You go to sleep with that one sound. What do they call it? That sound that puts you to white noise.
Vote early.
Biden's the official new white noise.
In person, vote in person, vote whatever way is the best way
stays
for
for
you.
2 minutes just
because
talking, I'm knocked out.
He cannot stop
This is bad.
you
Like, this is,
from
we're
being
trying to
able
put a show on falling
determine the
asleep right now.
outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted, when they're all counted,
This is
that
as good
will
as it
be
gets.
accepted. If I win, that
This
will be
reminds me of
accepted.
some
If
of the
I
life
lose,
insurance
it'll be
conferences I
accepted.
used to go
By
to,
the
like
way,
Alba.
if in
Joe
fact
Biden
he
would've been a
says
young
he's
man
not
if
sure
he
what
would've
he's
been
going
great
to
at Alba.
accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't
He
stay
sounds
in
like
power.
somebody. He sounds
His
like an
voice
actor.
has gotten
won't happen.
higher and
So
higher
vote.
throughout the
Just make sure you
debate.
understand. You
Look at
have
Trump.
it in your
Eyes
control
lying.
to determine
He's like-
what this country's going to look like the next 4 years.
Trump was
Is
breathing
it going to
hard the
change?
first
You're
debate
gonna
with
get
Hillary,
4
because you
more
know Hillary
years of
was
these
tough.
lies.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition,
Yeah,
there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say, you have to have your ballot in by November 10th.
When it comes to energy, it's not even a question.
That means
right now.
that's 7 days after
You have to
the election.
realize.
In theory,
It's not even a
should have been
question.
announced.
Joe Biden's
We have
24/7
major states with
job.
that.
Sir,
All run by
Being a president
Democrats.
is a 24/7 job,
All
not a
run
9
by
to 5.
Democrats. It's a
President
fraud.
Trump,
It's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You
Biden's a
say it's
4-hour
rigged,
work week type of
that
guy.
it's going to lead to fraud.
You read,
But in 2018,
Tim,
the
what's
last
his, Tim
midterm
Ferriss's
election,
book?
31 million people voted
It's 24
mail-in
in,
voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I don't think I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what
They
are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
If there
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now,
do
what
is
are
you
gonna
go
do?
and vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and that's
I
okay,
know
or
your
you go and
complaint.
vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go and vote. You go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people?
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending
Biden
it
needs
in,
to
they're sending it
focus
back, and you're sending.
more
They have
on the
mailmen
message
with
of
lots of it. Did you see what's going
Trump
on? Take a
doesn't
look at
go and
West
vote in
Virginia.
person. He
Mailmen
sends in
selling
the
the
ballots.
ballots. They're being
Joe
sold.
needs
They're
to
being
focus
dumped
on
in
that.
rivers. This is a
More.
horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is
evidence
not
of
going to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden-
5 states
In fact,
have had
go ahead, sir.
mail-in ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time
Just woke
by
up a little
election
bit.
day.
That's
If
a
it
little
doesn't
more
get in till the 7th, 8th,
bass in
9th,
his
it
voice
still
right there.
should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he knows
You're
what the
wrong.
outcome
You're
is.
wrong.
No, I want to continue with you on
I
this.
love
Vice
that.
That's how
President
he needs to
Biden.
be
And
angry.
she's
That was
so
good.
wrong when
If
he
he's
makes
not angry,
No,
he's
See how you woke up. You woke up a little.
Vice President
Baby,
Biden,
let's
the
go.
biggest
Let's get some
problem, in
shots.
fact,
Yeah, he knows
over
it's
the
almost
years
bed.
of
Let's get
mail-in
this fucking party
voting
started.
has not been fraud
Oh,
historically.
let's go. Line up
It has
the
been
whiskey
that
we were drinking this
sizable
weekend.
numbers,
Let's go.
sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I am concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted
on,
for,
Joe.
testify,
Stay awake,
say
buddy.
who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you have 80 million ballots,
Gentlemen, I have a final
Senate
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
there's
right,
been
so now-
fraud.
Mail service
Final-
delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen, in the
185
final
million
question
pieces of mail a
is,
day.
in
All
8
right, vote
states,
for Trump.
we can
It's over.
keep
Let's go.
talking.
It's-
In 8 states, election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes
Who's got
and
the first ping pong
flatten
game?
them until election day. That means that it's
That's all I've been
likely,
thinking about
because
for an
there's going to
hour,
be a
bro.
huge increase in mail-in
We get
balloting
30,000
that we are
viewers.
not going to know on election
Guys,
night who
next
the
election
winner
we'll be
is, that
playing
it could
ping
be
pong.
days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest, and will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that
from
mean,
a common sense,
does that mean you're
I'll tell
going
you
to
what
tell your
it means.
people to take to the
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're
And what
sending
are you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do
They're
about
not,
that?
they're not
This with
equipped.
Wallace just doing this
These
to
people
Trump and
aren't
not to
equipped to handle it.
Biden.
Number one.
I don't understand
Number two,
this.
they cheat.
Biden's not arguing
They
with
cheat.
them.
Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
You think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge
calm,
not
Joe.
to declare victory until the election is
Keep calm,
independently
buddy.
certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We count the
Energy.
ballots.
Energy,
pointed
buddy.
out.
Energy.
Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military,
He
they've
sounds
been
like
voting
somebody. I'm trying to see
by
like the
ballots since the
cartoon
end of the
character
Civil War.
voice. I'm being
in
serious.
effect. And that's what's going to happen.
That's
Why
a
was
small
it not?
percentage
Why is
of
it for
people,
them
moron.
somehow not
We're
fraudulent?
not talking about
It's
an
the same
entire country of
process.
people.
It's
Charlie Brown's
honest.
teacher?
No one has established
try to
at
not
all
make it obvious that you're a
there
Biden
is
fan. It's
fraud related to mail-in ballots. That somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established.
It's-
Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I
and
asked
now.
you had an opportunity
Look
to
at
respond.
Carolyn Monroe.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he
Here's
will
the
too.
deal.
You know why?
And then Joe doesn't
Because
give the deal.
once the winner is declared,
What's
after
the
all,
deal,
all
Joe?
the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted.
I want Joe to say,
that'll be
here's
the end
the
of it.
dilly.
That'll be the end of
Like,
it.
oh, okay.
And if
what's
it's
up?
me,
What's the dilly?
in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the
Here's to you,
outcome.
Joe.
And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to
in
see an
fact,
honest
Okay.
ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of
Chris,
it? This is the
I
end
wanna
of this
see an
debate?
honest ballot count.
We're
And I
going to
think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
To be continued as in more debates as we go on.
That's it? That's the end?
It's like I'm out of here, man.
Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed
gonna
to
get anything
engage
else
in.
or
We
no?
want to thank Case Western Reserve
Nothing.
University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event.
wanna
The next
thank
debate,
Manscaped.
sponsored
They
by
should
the
have let him
Commission
just
on
like
Presidential
close
Debates,
out with 2 minutes
will
of
be
free
1
form at
week
the
from
end.
tomorrow, October
Right.
7th, at the
I can dig
University
that.
of Utah.
Yeah.
I don't
In
know if
Salt
I'm
Lake
going to
City, the
depart
2
too.
vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence
We
and
have to.
Senator
See if they
Kamala
can win
Harris,
part 3.
will debate
We
at
gotta
9
have
p.m.
more
Eastern
excitement.
that
We gotta
night.
have
We
more
hope
action.
you
We gotta
watch.
have like
Until
Bored out
then,
of my
thank you.
mind with this.
And good night.
All right, so if you're listening to this, guys, what are you thinking about? Just so everybody knows, we had some kind of a glitch. Something happened here where we lost you on the first time. We were all the way up to 5,000-6,000 people that were watching, and then our buddy there, one of our guys was sliding around and a cable came out, but we're together now. So I got my notes. I want to hear from you guys. Who surprised you? Now, here's the thing. If I'm asking, I'm actually curious because a lot of you guys are saying funny things. If you're a Trump supporter and you know you're a Trump guy, so I know you're going to say, oh, I love Trump. He crushed it. Did Biden surprise you a little bit? And if you're a Biden person, you cannot stand Trump, was there any time where you were like, well, Biden doesn't look good, Trump was kind of looking good here? So, Adam, why don't you take the lead? What were some
Well, I'm
areas?
going first?
Both of them.
Let me wake up a little bit. Let me slap myself around.
Both of them. I got some points I made. I'm curious to know what you think about it.
So, like in fights, they They go round by round.
Bro, honestly, look at his eyes. I don't know if the camera. Can you zoom in on Adam's eyes?
I wear contacts. It's always happening.
But wait a minute.
Biden
No, but wait a minute.
I wear contacts.
How many drinks have you had? How many drinks? Actually, honestly, half
What
of
did I
that.
have? I've had a stiff cocktail. I got Visine here for the red eyes.
Adam, I've never seen you this time. I've been around you at 9:41 many times. I've never seen you this
Trump
bored out of your mind.
boring me, Joe.
Yeah.
Joe was so exciting and Trump.
So tell us what the hell just.
Okay. If you take away the last half hour of the debate, we'll talk about first hour, then we'll get. The last half hour was very boring.
my
I think
God. We
all
got
can
knocked
agree
out?
with that.
Oh my
When Biden fell
gosh.
asleep. Again, Biden's expectations very low. Half of the people here literally said they didn't think he was going to show up. He showed up. He showed off some stuff. He was bobbing and weaving. We got our Colombian guy that might get out of the country. Who knows? He held his own. He made some points. He made some counterpoints. There's a few things. Number one, Trump is a 7th grader, maybe a 5th grader. He could not shut his mouth. Biden, on a handful of points, he got shut down. When Trump said, name one police organization that supports you. If I knew a police organization that would support me, bro, I'm shouting that from the rooftops. He just looks down, didn't say nothing. You know, you got to.
It's not good.
That was not good on Biden's part. However, other than being boring, do you think he has dementia? Did he give off any dementia?
I don't know if I got that feeling at all.
No, but that's what the
No, I don't think I got that.
the Biden haters have been saying.
I think the Biden haters are also saying that he had a earpiece in, or maybe he takes
Do you think he had
PEDs
an
to get some
earpiece?
energy. Maybe he's doing some TRT, some steroids to get some energy. I honestly think they need to do something with makeup. Like Richard Nixon, when he came out on the first debate with John F. Kennedy on national television, he had a 4 o'clock shave, and that to think John F. Kennedy came out, he was perfectly tanned, looking good, shaved. He slept a ton that night before to be very well rested. They need to do something with the makeup on the next one. They need to take that seriously. It's a camera, it's a TV. You got to do a little bit of
How do you have
makeup.
that problem on the first one even? How did they even allow that to happen?
You know, you're a professional. Like we at least I watch you prepare right. You know, you got the makeup, you do stuff. You've been on TV your entire life. We're amateurs. This is not what we do for a living. You've been doing this your entire life. You know how to get yourself prepared. What is that? I mean, just the look alone. What do you think about that?
Was it the lighting? Was it the lack of makeup? I mean, that's one thing you can control. In a debate, you can't control very much, but you can control how your candidate looks, and that should have been tested. That should have been prepared for. You know, I think Biden would have been such a better candidate 30 or 40 years ago. You know, when he had a little bit more energy. The left is propping him up to be their guy right now, and it's just not working. I'll make a couple points. I don't want to make a sports analogy, but in the NFL, what teams do is they script their first 25 plays. So they go all week in practice knowing what their first 25 plays are going to be. That's what Biden did at the beginning of this debate. That's why he was so strong. He was ready. He knew what the questions were. He was prepared. He came out and surprised me. He had a little bit more fire, and he sounded, you know, like cohesive. Number two, I got tired of the turning to the camera thing. I think that works once or twice, talking to the American people. I'll buy that once or twice, but then I think it's forced.
Interesting.
And that's how I felt it was after a while. That was clearly a strategy of his. Number three, tomorrow the media, I can predict it right now, Trump's a bully. That's all they're going to talk about. But you know what? Trump made good, valid points as a president to rebut some of the things that Biden was saying. And here's my final point. I was scared of Biden becoming president before this debate. Now I'm petrified. Okay, so that's how I feel after watching him for an hour and a half. Because I just, his philosophies, his issues, the things he stands for, I don't think he can think straight. I don't think he's making decisions on his own. You cannot say that Trump isn't his own person. Probably tells a bunch of people every day to screw you. You know, he does what he wants when he wants. You just don't get that vibe from Biden, and it's too important what's going on in the country right now to rely on someone that doesn't have a backbone or some real legitimate plans for what he wants to do. He's a puppet, and it just is a fact, and it just kind of came across tonight in this debate.
Shara.
Oh man, you know, I think that I was very surprised at how articulate Biden was. I mean, he had a few, you know, glitches in the force there. But it makes me wonder, is somebody communicating with him? I'm wondering, like, what in the Houston Astros is going on over here? You know what I mean? Like, how did he come out? How did he come out this strong? Okay. I was disappointed that they didn't spend more time on the Supreme Court nominee. I think that the constant interruptions between the both of them, but more so on Trump's part, I think that's almost intentional to to keep us away from the key issues. It might surprise some of the viewers who think that women need to support women just because we both have vaginas, that I'm not really sold on Barrett. I don't think that she's a constitutional judge. I've done some research on her, and honestly, I've been disappointed. I wish they would have spent a little more time on this whole psychiatrist going out with law enforcement. These two people have no idea. They think they know, but they have no idea what law enforcement deals with on a daily basis. And until they get their butts in a cop car and they go out and they deal with people high on PCP, people trying to stab their boyfriends and wives, and people beating their kids, until they're dealing with the issues that law enforcement deals with, until they see it with their own eyes and spend a lot of time doing it, they are never going to understand the correlation between law enforcement and the communities, especially the situations that we're dealing with now in society. I would like to see more humility from Trump. Trump did not do all of the things that he did in his administration. He needs to start giving more credit to his administration and stop saying, I.
That's fair. Although, now, we're talking about the interruptions, and I feel like a lot of them were to knock Biden off his game, but I also thought that the majority kind of leaned, for me, the way I felt about it was it leaned a little bit more towards, wait a second, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? That's fair. I'm passionate about this subject, and this is why I'm stopping you. And let's face it. I mean, Trump doesn't mind interrupting anyway. So at that point, why not jump in? I thought that Biden, again, like everybody else, I mean, he started off strong. I didn't expect much, and he didn't deliver much. I mean, just because he had a good couple of first minutes, I mean, it's like, I don't think he's going to steal anything there. You know what I mean? He would have been better off stealing the last 10 minutes than the first 10 minutes. You know what I mean? So, I'm horrified of the idea of Biden becoming president based on what I heard too. I mean, he did dodge some things when we're talking law enforcement. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that kind of made me worry. When we're talking the big Green Deal and all that other stuff, I mean, that makes me worried, especially after that AOC comment that we can push Biden a certain direction, as she was quoted saying.
Well, I'll tell you a couple things. So one, if you're watching this, you're enjoying this, put a thumbs up and click on the subscribe button and the alert button. But let's go back through a couple things he talked about. So number one, Trump said, name me one law enforcement group that supports you. He couldn't do it. Game over there. Okay, just so you know that. Game over there.
He didn't try.
Their campaign has to immediately go beg one law enforcement group in the next week to come out to say we support them. Somebody's got to do it tomorrow. So if I'm part of Biden's campaign, I'm sitting there saying, dude, call somebody that we need a favor from. Who's the sheriff? Who's one county we need? I don't care who it is. Call Wisconsin, call Minnesota, call somebody. Somebody's got to say we support Biden. That's number one priority. And it's got to be from 5 different places tomorrow. It's a catastrophe for that to be taking place. And then they need to make a nice viral video to say, I'm with the sheriff we support. So that's number one.
Totally agree.
If that doesn't happen, it's going to be a big problem here because, believe it or not, what Barkley said the other day, he says, this whole thing about defunding the police, you have no clue what the hell you're talking about. Black people need more cops because black neighborhoods need more cops. Barkley said this the other day, and Shaq agreed with him. So that's one thing with him. That's a problem right there. Number two, when Trump talked about the fact that you leave 128 judges for me to pick? What the hell are you doing? Are you out of your freaking mind? So for me, if I'm a Democrat, I'm sitting there saying, why did you guys leave 128 judges? Are you out of your mind? You talk about Roe versus Wade. You cannot leave these many judges free. Of course he's going to replace them. Record-breaking 300 judges. He's got 2 of them now. He's going to do his 3rd Supreme Court justice. First president to do this since Reagan on first term in three different Supreme Courts. I mean, that's insane for him to be able to do that. So that's that part. The other part, Biden's zinger. It is what it is, and you are what you are.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, see that on the cover of New York Times. It is, I'm just telling you, marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You are who you are. It is what it is. You are. That's I'm not checked Twitter. I guarantee you that's been tweeted out by hundreds of thousands of people. It is what it is. You are who you are. So that's that part. Good for him with that one. It was a good comment that was written. When he said, just shut up. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. I'm just telling you that I'm not comfortable with, just shut up. Now, if it's ever going to be okay to say, just shut up, it's going to be against Trump. Because Trump said every single thing. But if it's against a Bush, I don't think that would have worked. I think if it's against Senior, I don't think it's going to work. If it's against him, it's going to work because Trump said a lot of other things. I'll just shut up. It's not going to be the biggest one. So that part's going to be kind of, canceling each other out. The other comment when he said Antifa is not, Antifa is an idea, not an organization. That was one of the scariest comments this guy could have made. And Breitbart's going to run with that tomorrow. Fox is going to run with that. Right now they're writing, Daily Wire's running with that. They're all over the place writing about Antifa's not an idea. So they're going to take the Antifa idea and they're going to show every single thing about the organization that they stand for that's not going to be good from Biden's camp on where he's at. The other one where he said under this administration we become weaker, sicker, violent, and more divided. To the average voter, that's going to resonate with. Not to the person that's going to go out there and study and see what's actually going on. The fact that, the more riots and protesting you endorse behind closed doors, it's better for Democrats. The more there's riots, the more they can say, look what happened under a Trump administration. Look how many riots there are. Look how many. Statistically, Democrats riot more than Republicans riot. That's just statistically what happens. But it favors them. So that statement of saying under this administration, we become weaker, sicker, more violent, and more divided, that was good. Whoever wrote that form, that whole bit that he read the entire thing, by the way. He never looked up. He read the entire thing, which means he didn't write it. Somebody wrote it from. Kudos for the person that wrote it for him. And then a couple things. Kai, if you want to pull this up, when he says, you said stupid, clap, you stupid bastards. He says, I never said that. He can't stop. He can't say things like that. Can you pull up the video where he says, you stupid bastards? Watch this.
We're just waiting for them to get it on the camera. So
do we have it so they can see it? Ready? Okay, let's take a look. Watch this.
I just want you to know that. Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Clap for that. He did say
Okay,
it.
so that's that. Now here's the other one. Go to USA Today. Actually, just type in, this is what I typed in online for some people to see this. I typed in online, was Hunter Biden dishonorable discharge? Just type in, was Hunter Biden dishonorable discharge? I was in the military. A lot of people got dishonorable discharge. One of the guys in our barracks got caught with cocaine, dishonorable discharge. You got a 187, go to, click on USA Today right there. Biden, this is 2014, by the way, so it's not like this was just written yesterday. In 2014, Biden was a VP. Kai, we don't want ads. Oh, buddy, this, continue to cite. Okay.
It keeps popping up, yeah.
Can we do anything about it? Okay, I'll read it to you. Since we can't do nothing about it. It's a new computer. Biden's son fails drug test, is discharged from the Navy, written by USA Today, okay? And it tells you the story of what happened there, that Joe, the younger son failed the drug test for cocaine a month after his commissioning last year into the Navy Reserve and was discharged. So that's a factual statement to be made. And there's more stories to go there. But the biggest thing is, let's set those stories aside. Remember, we're dealing with 10%. We're not dealing with 42%, right. 44%, or the 4%. The 10% right now is watching, okay? The 10% right now is watching. So imagine I am somebody who doesn't read politics. You are somebody who doesn't read the USA Today. You are somebody that doesn't watch Fox or CNN. You are, guys, we can hear you. You are somebody that doesn't follow any of this stuff, right? You don't follow any of this stuff. You're just a regular person that's working, hoping that you're going to be kind of going about your business, just kind of watching this whole thing taking place. I am honestly, I'm telling you right now, if you guys try to tell me let's do part 2 of this debate, I'm not open to it. I'm telling you, I'm not open to it. I'm not going to watch this thing like this. I can't watch this on a 1.0 speed. I wish I could watch this on a 2.0 speed. You want me to sit through this again on a second time? You knocked out half the time. You were bored out of your, I'm being so serious. I'm almost sitting in my mind ticked off that we even did this thing here right now. Fine, it's a great idea. That has got to be the most boring debate I've seen. I like a good fight. You got this whole thing when you watch sports, right? What do you like about sports? Nuggets against Clippers. Love that series, right? You're watching and saying, this is sick. This is what I'm talking about, right? You watch a fight. Ali against Norton. Ali against Frazier. Ali against Foreman. These are good fights. Have you ever seen a boring fight? What do you want to do at the end of a boring fight?
Do something.
You are pissed off that you spend money. You are pissed off you wasted time. You are pissed off you coordinate the whole thing. This may be the most boring, most overly promoted debate I've ever seen in my life. I've never been more bored of a debate than this one here today.
Well, it's a testimony that he just can't bring.
I don't know what else to tell you.
I think it's just.
What I don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, for these guys for the next one, You know, is Biden just going to rely on marketing slogans? You know, Trump's his worst enemy. He's going to have to peel back on some of those interruptions because it doesn't help him. And I think one final thought I have, Trump set the tone that Hunter Biden is going to be a problem for Joe Biden, right? Especially when he flat out lied about him. I mean, he hammered him hard on Hunter, on his son, like laying the groundwork that there's some things out there that's going to come out. So, I don't know. I'm sure Trump felt good about it.
But to me, if Biden gets elected, you know, I think that we're going to implode internally and externally. Like, where are our foreign relations going to go? I mean, countries are going to eat this guy alive. Governors are going to eat this guy alive. He has no presence to him that instills any kind of authority to me.
You worried about other countries not respecting America, you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, the polls are pretty lopsided where other countries respected Obama way more than they do Trump.
Liked him, probably.
I'm just saying.
I can see that, but what I'm not necessarily talking about respect. I'm talking about, is he going to be able to get anything done? Is he going to get railroaded in trade deals and foreign relations?
Let me say one thing. I think both of them are very weak candidates. Biden is a very weak candidate. Agreed?
Yeah.
Probably the worst Democratic candidate we've seen in 40 years. Yeah?
For sure. Yeah.
He's the favorite. He's the favorite. We covered that in the tail of the tape. He's winning in the polls right now.
Give this to Adam.
That's how bad.
A pillow because
thank you.
Yeah.
That's how bad of a candidate Trump is. Don't forget that, ladies and gentlemen.
That also could be some skewed polling. I mean, that's what they said before 2016 as well.
Or there could be some accurate polling.
Well, the polling said that Hillary was going to win.
Hillary was winning until Comey dropped the bomb 2 weeks before the election. Okay? Let's not forget, she won the popular vote, did she not?
But that doesn't matter.
Popular vote doesn't matter anymore?
It never did.
Since when?
Popular vote doesn't care. We don't people care at all.
Were you born in America? I'm
American.
I understand if I screw this up.
I'm just letting you know. The Electoral College obviously is the name of the game here. But she won by more than 4 million votes, if you're not going to count all the quote-unquote illegal votes. I'm just saying, that's how bad of a candidate Trump is that he's losing in the polls right now to sleepy Joe Biden.
Adam, I did a question the other day. I said, I asked the question, I said, who's ever had a pollster approach them? Okay? I ask you, have you had anybody approach you and tell you who you're voting for?
Have I ever had a pollster?
Yes.
Ever?
No,
yes.
About election.
Yes.
What was it, local or presidential?
Was it local?
Was it like a mayor, or was it like a Congress senator, or was it a presidential?
It was outside of a polling station.
Outside of a polling station?
Yes.
And
so
when
an
was
exit
this?
poll is what you're saying?
Exit poll.
Okay.
Oh, no. I'm talking about imagine a September.
Yeah.
Has anybody come up to you telling you who you're voting for?
Come up to me where?
Anywhere, buddy. Have you ever polled for anything?
You think I'm talking to strangers, bro? Get out of my face, dude.
What I'm trying to tell you is, if you believe in polls outside of Pew Research, Pew or Rasmussen, and there's one. If it's Gallup, Pew, I trust. I'll take those three. Anything else? Fox News poll? Nope. CNN poll? Nope. MSNBC poll? Nope. I watched Bill Burr the other day. Bill Burr said the best thing. He says, you know how I see polls? He's like, I think these guys kind of sit there and say, what do you think? Who do you think is got a, I think he's got a 59% list. I agree with Bill Burr. I think he's got a point. I think there's a bunch of guys that are sitting in a room and they just say, I think Biden's got the lead right now, 59%. Do you realize how off they were in 2016? Let me tell you, 2016, I'm on the phone with my friend Tom till 3 o'clock in the morning. We can't believe what happened. 2016 was like nobody thought this was going to take place. Mm-hmm. There's a video that got a few 100 million views. It was just it always shows up, the reaction of people when Trump got elected. So for you to say anything about polls, it's just not going to be able. One of the guys needs to go take a nap right now. Biden needs to go take a nap right now.
So the three polls that you said you agree with.
How many interviews do you think Trump can do right now? How many interviews do you think Biden can do right now?
There's no question Trump has more energy than Biden.
But here's a question for you.
Okay.
If you're going to have somebody to be the CEO of a company, what is something you need to be the CEO of the company? You need to be tough. You need to not be afraid of the competitors. You need to make sure your biggest enemies kind of don't like you. Okay? You can't have China, Iran, and North Korea like you. And you need to be able to last a long time. This is a game of lasting. This is where stamina matters. This is when endurance matters. Forget about all the other stuff. I don't care how big your resume is. I don't think that guy's going to be able to last and have the stamina to be a president.
No doubt. The guy does not have stamina,
Then
sure.
That means the conversation's over with.
Let's flip the other side. Don't you also need honesty? Can't you not be a pathological liar?
At this point of the game,
is racism not a thing?
Do you think?
Is the fact that you're a complete unempathetic person not matter? Sure. There's countless CEOs that have tons of energy, that have complete rah-rah, sis, boom, bah, but they're piece of shits. Okay? And their companies suffer for it. How many CEOs do you know that have super energy, but they run their companies into the ground?
What's your point with that?
My point is, just because you have energy doesn't make you a great leader.
What's your point with that, though, when you're saying something like that? How many companies has this guy built? How many times have you stayed at the Trump Hotel? How many times do you go see his brands everywhere?
So let's just have
how many times? 15 seasons of Apprentice.
Let me put it to you this way. Let me put it to you this way. Let's vote for Warren Buffett for president. Just because you run a company, you should be the president?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Say a Bill Gates runs. If a Bill Gates goes against Biden, you better believe I'm going Gates.
I'd go Gates too.
The reason for this is he has the energy to be able to think this kind of stuff. You're not going to sit there and think about a guy like that can last. What are you talking about? This is not even about politics at this point of the game. This is about and you're talking about empathy. You think China's got empathy for you? I'm sorry, buddy. If we get into the streets and somebody wants to attack me, I don't give a shit if you have empathy. I give a shit if I'm safe. I'm not hoping you have some empathy. I'm hoping you protect my ass. If I'm in a war and I'm getting attacked, I don't sit in the bunker and say, hey, Private Jones, before I go out there, can I get a hug, bro? Because I need some empathy right now. All I'm thinking about is you better have my six when I go there.
Seriously.
Dude.
Pat.
You need a hug?
Let me get a hug.
Hey,
we got a hug? For sure, the thumbnail's got to be changed to, me and you giving a hug.
If it comes down to the 10% that could possibly be moved tonight, don't you think they're watching this and feeling a little bit more secure listening to Trump about law and order, about having a track record, about lower taxes, watching his performance tonight? I think if it's that little part in the middle, that tiny little fringe, I think Trump came out and maybe
let me tell you something,
Yes.
on behalf of someone who has voted Democrat for the majority of his life. Nobody in the Democratic Party is excited about Joe Biden. We're not fist bumping saying, yo, Joe's got this thing, y'all.
Yeah, but here's what you're going to say next. He's better than Trump.
This guy out of office.
Then how did he get there? Because to me,
he beat everyone else.
There
He
were
beat Kamala
far more
Harris.
qualified and
Who?
better candidates. I think Kamala's
Buttigieg?
better than him. And I don't even like her.
Kamala had 4% in the polls, if that. Okay?
I think she's awful.
Oh, I do
you think
too. I think she's
I'm
better
not
than
a
Biden.
Kamala
Yeah.
fan.
Well, you might get a big taste of her.
Yeah.
I'm not a Kamala fan.
Well,
Okay?
and as far as being liked, I mean, and I don't know, I guess it's a Machiavellian type thing. It's being feared and being loved, and he's not a lovable guy, and I get that, and as far as talking about Trump, I mean, to some people, he's just not a lovable guy. Is he feared? For sure. Fear can draw that respect that we need to make our place in the world again. I mean, and we don't have it. We haven't had it in a long time, and I kind of think he's doing. He's making these new deals.
Who's he feared by?
North Korea.
North Korea? Who
I
they
would
write
think
love
so.
letters to one another? You think that he fears them? Okay. Who else?
I think
Who else fears Trump?
I think Iran,
Okay.
for sure, right?
Iran, yeah.
I mean,
China doesn't want him to become president. No way.
no, oh God, no, yeah. I mean,
If China feared him, would
So-
they have released the virus to the world? If they feared
Yeah,
Trump?
that's a big statement. That's a
Well,
question and a
let me
statement
ask
all
you
at the
this.
same time, right?
You don't think that Biden is here right now because he's easy to control?
Did Biden not win the nominee fair and square?
Do you not think he won the nomination because he's easy to control?
By the DNC? By who? Mm-hmm. The voters voted for him. So you can say that he was controlled by whoever you want. People voted for him.
Well, the DNC also probably forced some candidates to drop out to get out of the running in the primaries. Bachmann or.
Oh, Bachmann?
Well, I mean,
that's who was going to win the race.
I don't know, but
Bachmann?
clearly they
How's
made a deal.
Bachmann?
Or who's the congressman from Minnesota?
You're talking about Michelle Bachmann from 7 years ago?
No, I'm talking about the congressman from Klobuchar. Klobuchar.
If she had a chance, they're like, listen, Klobuchar, go take a Klobuchar, get out of here, buddy. Like, she's not going anywhere. Whether you like him or not, I'm not a huge Biden supporter. He won it fair and square.
He won this?
He won the nominee.
Oh.
He won the nomination.
All right, let's finish this. Who won tonight? Who won tonight? Give us a
How many
football
rounds?
score.
How many rounds?
Give us a football score.
Football score.
Give us a football score.
I go first.
Who you want to go first?
Ladies first.
Go ahead, Gerald. Who won the football score?
I mean, it's below 10. You know, I'm going 7-3 Trump.
Oh wow, like a touchdown to
Low
field
scoring
goal.
game.
Low
That's
scoring
actually
game.
pretty
to me.
good.
Okay.
Because what would you say?
I say 31-14 Trump, although he had about 6 turnovers. Okay, he coughed up the ball a lot. All right, he was sloppy. All right, but he look at the scoreboard at the end of the game, he kicked ass. 31-14.
I don't think there's a lot of touchdowns happening in this.
Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
I say 14-3.
14-3.
Field goal. That's it. That's all he had.
I think Trump won 17-14 in overtime.
Okay, all right.
In the fourth quarter.
In overtime. Biden wasn't awake in
I got
overtime.
9-6. This is like a
So we both had a 3-point game. We both had a 3-point
Remember what
game.
I told you? What's the most boring football game you've seen in your life?
They all have one
You
bar
ever
face
seen
mask,
it?
right?
You ever see? Like, do you know? Like, you bring your friends over. Like, you know, like, dude, guys, this game's gonna be sick. Come on over, everybody comes. You got the
Like
chips,
the
you got the
Super Bowl
drinks ready, you got the
sometimes.
music,
Yeah.
family, everything, and the score is 9-6. You're like, okay, sorry guys, kind of disappointed with tonight's game. No time. You go to a baseball game. What do you want to watch at a baseball game? A home run. I just saw 2 guys screaming at each other. And who's the moderator on second one? Do we know who's the second moderator?
Cooper on the next one?
Is it Cooper's a decent moderator? Who's the second moderator?
Hey, I don't think Wallace did a horrible job.
Can we give a grade to Chris Wallace? How do you think Chris Wallace did?
Hey, it's a tough job,
kind of
man.
scale?
I think he tried.
0 to 10.
Okay, a 0 to 10. He did a 6.9, something like that, to 7.1. I mean, he tried.
So a
but
7.
I mean, he's looking up at these guys. Trump's a powerhouse. He's railroading them.
I mean, I would actually split it in 2 parts, too. I'd say the first half, he lost control completely, and he was at a 2. Maybe he recovered at a 7.
Okay.
You both got 7s. PBD, Jared?
I don't really think he did a good job at all. I would give him like a 4. I would give him like a really, because he basically was doing Joe Biden's job for him, okay, for a lot of the second half of the debate, and he had no control. Now Trump is a hard person to control, so we have to give him that. But I don't think he did a good job as a moderator at all. We need somebody you need a bully like Trump to be moderating this, and I go Joe Rogan all the way.
Totally agree.
He's got to be, like, you got to have somebody that's just going to tell,
If the Spotify employees allow him to.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Very good point. The disclaimer. So
live.
what score you give him? You give him a score or no?
4.
4? Adam?
I'm going lower than you. I'm going to 3.5.
Okay.
At some point, as the moderator,
Yeah.
you need to step in and say, guys,
Although I think you're making it seem like an easier job than it is. That's tough.
you're dealing with 2 children over here. Like, that's what it felt like to me. Like, I taught 2nd grade for a year and a half.
I
don't
can
know if you
actually
knew that.
see you.
When I was doing
I know,
stand-up
you told
comedy
me,
at
yeah.
night, telling jokes by day,
Were you certified as a teacher?
teaching by day, yeah, certified as a substitute teacher.
Look at the grin.
I was a substitute, and then the substitute got sick, and I filled in for the rest of the year. Point is, when you have 2 little kids interrupting each other, it just at some point you got to say, the 2 of you are going to go into your corner, and if you say another word, you're going to be kicked out of class. At some point, you need to step in. Like, nerd alert, Chris Wallace over here is like, excuse me, may I please, excuse me, Mr. President, shut the fuck up and listen to me. Okay? That's what he needed to say.
Say that to children. He actually did. That's why he got fired. Cover of Miami Hill.
Hey, remember the movie School of Rock where Jack Black was on it and his roommate was the teacher and couldn't go, so he just
It's based on a true story. It's based on a true story.
Anyway, Trump was, and this is, I mean, you asked me initially what my problem was, like, the tax. On the list of things that the Democrats or liberals, however you want to put it, are fed up with Trump about, it's not the tax stuff. It's the fact that a man baby is running the country. Whether you agree with his policies or not, it's the fact that he can't just sit there and respect a debate enough where he's like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, oh yeah, right, man. It's just
And
like,
that is the thing that's limiting his successes.
It's like if he didn't do that, and he was just a racist, race baiting, misogynist, that'd be one thing. But the fact that he's a baby doing all that,
did he have one instance of race baiting, misogyny?
It's we can check the record on that. Anyways, Chris Wallace 3.5. How about you?
3.5.
Yes.
I say 4 in the face of Republicans, 8 for Democrats. I think he helped Biden a lot, and Biden needed it, and he helped out a lot. And if there's a bonus being given on the side, he deserves a bonus. He deserves a bonus from the DNC, because I think he was. This was 2 against 1, this was 2 against. You never once heard him jump in for the other side, but he did with Trump. But on the other side, I'll tell you this: as a whole, like a total, I put him a 5.5 score on how he did. I don't think it's an easy job. But I do think both guys agreed to it. I think Trump jumped in way too much, and he couldn't hold himself. And Trump almost came in like, a guy who goes into a fight and he knows he's better than the other guy. Like he can come in prepared at a level 5 and he's still going to beat the other guy. You know how there's boxers like that? That's what I felt with Trump. I think Trump just came in like, I don't really need to be prepared for this. I'm going to beat this guy no matter what, because you're 1/10 of what Hillary was. So when you go against people like Hillary in your life and you face somebody like this, you're not really intimidated by someone like this. No. And the problem becomes you don't prepare as well. I hope he prepares a little bit more on the next one. I do think he won the debate. 100% I think he won the debate. But I think he needs to... 9-6, but he still won the debate. I still think he won the debate with how this thing ended up. So anyways, final thoughts before we wrap up here. Does this really mean anything, or a bunch of things can happen between now and the last event? And then the other question is, was the story with the taxes, is everybody going to forget about it tomorrow? Because think about how many big stories just happened. Cindy McCain, Dwayne Johnson, Ilhan Omar, you got the tax thing that just came out. You got all these other things that came out in the last. You got the Supreme Court that's on the line. There's a lot of things that happen in 1 week. If the right marketing doesn't happen on each side, if you don't know how to get the right story out, the media is going to be able to control whatever story they want. Now it's about which one of those stories they take the lead with. And unfortunately, I think this thing's going to be forgotten very quickly.
Yeah, okay, I look at it like a UFC card, right? This was like the third fight before the main event, okay? It's not going to move the needle for either side, and we're going to forget about it very quickly. It's a good warm-up for number 2. The only one they're going to remember is number 3. So I think the big question going into the next one is Trump going to learn to not be his own worst enemy? Because he was tonight. Because he gave the media the ammunition that they are looking for to flip this as far as the narrative tomorrow. And that's what it's all going to be about, how he was rude or he was a bully, and they're going to gloss over, how he basically crushed him point for point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually think it's going to be his to lose. I mean, he's going to be his own worst enemy, and it's going to be, I didn't think he pushed the envelope too far tonight, and I was worried about it going in, thinking, is he going to do something offensive? And if it's going to go too far, I loved what he did. He stopped short on the Beau Biden thing and became real specific. He said Hunter Biden. So I don't think this is going to move anything. I think you're right. Maybe in the third. I don't think any of these things are going to really move anything. I don't think Biden's really going to come out of his shell at all. I'll be surprised if he does in 2 or 3. I don't see much from Biden.
I think Biden did a great job of diffusing the fact that people are saying that he's lost a step, has dementia, he's not going to show up, right? But I think he did a very poor job of losing the Sleepy Joe Biden moniker. The guy put me to sleep. I'll blame it partially on my contacts, but also a little sleepy. So I'll also blame it on Jara. She liquored me up, straight up. But overall, I think Trump. He's a child, but sometimes, as you guys say, sometimes you need a child to be out there ruling the world, because you want your enemies to respect the child. Joe, not a good candidate, but again, let's see what the polls have to say.
I'm far more interested in, I think this was a complete shit show. It didn't impress me at all. And I'm far more interested to see what the vice presidential debate brings us. next month. I think isn't it coming up in
October 7th?
And I want to see. That. I think that's going to be a little bit more interesting.
At least has
because,
energy.
well, I think they both have a little bit more. You know, when we were in, you know, when we did LTC class and we talked about the ego state theory, right? The parent, adult, and child ego state. I think that Pence and Harris have a little bit more ability to stay in the adult ego state with each other than this circus.
I don't disagree.
No,
I actually don't disagree.
No, me neither.
So I think that maybe some of the issues that we were wanting to spend more time on might get tackled on October 7th versus what we saw tonight.
I think we're going to see how extreme Harris is, number one. And I don't think Pence will be drawn into any of those personal battles. He's pretty stoic, you know, he's got a little
he's pretty even.
sleepy side to him too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a little more interested in that than this was a disappointment for me.
Okay, so my sister said Adam is even sitting on the left of the stage. Which is
on purpose.
On purpose, just like you're watching this. That was on purpose. Tikran, our buddy, said Biden got a safety, Trump won 3-2. Tikran, Noel said, I need a drink. This is one of the worst debates he's ever seen. And my dad asked me, what do you think? I said, I'm falling asleep. And you know, so are a lot of other people. Anyways, gang, if you're watching this, if you enjoy this format, let us know. Comment below if you want to see us do this again.
Do they want to see us do it again?
Yeah, if you want to see it again, click on the subscribe button, click on the thumbs up, comment below. We'll see if we're going to do this again. It'll be mainly on your reaction. If you enjoyed it, we may consider again. If not, we won't do it again. But having said that, Rapatoni, Tom, Jera, Adam, this was a blast. I think you took a break to go to the bathroom. I don't know if you did go to. Did he go to the bathroom or no? I think you did.
I ate cheese.
But you
I ate cheese. Jera. Shout out to Jera for
I've never heard anybody say they have to go to the bathroom after eating cheese.
I'm good.
But did you take a break to go to the bathroom?
No.
Be honest.
Nice try.
Wait a minute.
I washed my hands.
But did you go do anything?
I washed my hands.
Just hands.
I'm going to wash my hands.
It took you 6 minutes to wash your hands.
You got a lot of cheese on the plate.
Did you use
She brought the peanut butter. Okay, can I say something to the audience? We have 4,500 people listening. Jera showed up. Did you bring anything, Rapatoni?
No.
Did you bring anything?
This?
You brought a bottle of water. Pat brought a crew.
Okay.
I brought some bathroom issues. Jera brought
liquor.
4 bottles of liquor. Some sort of hummus platter. That's been fantastic with cream cheese.
How come I didn't
chips.
know about this?
What do you mean? It's all over here.
You haven't gone over there
What are you
yet.
talking
Thanks
about?
for the invite.
Where do you think I'm hanging out?
Boy. You could have said something to this guy, made some offer.
What do you think I'm doing over
You
there?
have a Syrian. You were supposed to be neighbors, man.
Shout out
That's
to
why
Jera.
you always have a woman on the panel, because she's going to bring the snacks.
That's right.
Jera
You know
showed
what?
up with snacks like a Super Bowl
appreciate
party.
that. Okay.
So that's where I was hanging out on stage in the green room.
On a serious
with
note,
the peanut butter
I
cups.
salute, the reason why I wanted to say this, because I salute all the bladders in this room. Because we've gone 3.5 hours, so respect to all of you, but I think it's fair, there's going to be a line outside the bathroom right now. Sure. But having said that, gang, I saw a bunch of comments say do it again. If you want to see do it again, click on the sub button, put the thumbs up and comment below. Take care, everybody. Good night, good night, good night.
Good night.